It is 1059 The X, Trav with you, and I'm lucky to be joined right now. Very special guest here with The X today. Special for me because Yellowcard was such an important part of my pre-game playlist for hockey games in high school and in college, but also a big deal for all of us because Yellowcard is rolling through Pittsburgh for the first time in a while this weekend. So Ryan Key with us. Ryan, I appreciate you for taking some time to join us here at The X today. Man, you've been busy. 2023 has been busy for you, and it's going to stay busy at least for a little bit longer. So I know people asked on the upfront, but let's just do a check-in right now. How you holding up with everything that's been going on in 2023 so far?
It's been a wild year, man. We're currently on the biggest tour we've ever done in our career. So we're all sort of just suspended in disbelief, to be honest with you. We one of the main driving forces behind deciding to break up the band in 2016 was just kind of waning ticket sales and feeling like we were treading water, running on a hamster wheel kind of vibe. So to get this opportunity and come back to it 7 years later and be playing for like 5 or 6 times the amount of people we usually play for in cities. There's no metric you or anyone else can give me to try to explain how that's possible. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's so surreal. So we have a week left. I think we have 6 shows left to go, which is also kind of wild to think that we've almost completed the whole run. But yeah, this year's been, just getting mostly focused the first part of the year, just getting ready for this tour, finishing up our new EP that came out on the 21st, Childhood Eyes, and and learning how to play Yellowcard songs again. Honestly, that's what I had to dust off my guitars. I've been producing music since Yellowcard split, but not necessarily rock music in any fashion. So I had to shake off the dust and learn how to play and sing all these songs again.
you're right. Well, you mentioned the breakup in 2016. Well, you guys took a break back in '08, but that was more or less a we'll be back kind of a break. And then you just mentioned 16 kind of just being like, this is run its course, right? I feel like there's been a trend though, whether planned or I don't think it's planned in many cases where artists that have a huge following, they might feel that way. They take some time away to do other projects, or in this case, you guys had a lot of things that were going on. And all of a sudden it comes back bigger than ever. Like it's very rare that a band returns, all these years later with their biggest tour whenever they had success in the past, right?
Absolutely. That's what makes it so hard to comprehend how it's all happening, and what's the driving force behind it all. I mean, I would say that I certainly can't speak for any other artist that's ever been through an experience like this, but there were a lot more reasons other than just attendance to shows that led to us breaking up the band.
Sure.
There were internal things and things that were unhealthy enough to where we all just really truly believed it was over. I mean, there was no gimmick here, no marketing ploy.
Right.
And honestly, we had to do a sort of dip your toes back in the water show last year at Riot Fest in Chicago, to just see what the vibe would be like before we really committed and agreed to do this tour this summer, record new music, any of that stuff. Riot Fest was very much how we were planning on taking the temperature for where we were, and you could just tell when we stepped into the room for rehearsal at Riot Fest that everyone was in a really different place mentally and emotionally than they were when we left the band. So I think we knew pretty much immediately that everything was going to be okay. And then we played the show, and it was a really special show that night in Chicago. Just really intense energy from the crowd and a real genuine connection between the four of us on stage. And I think we knew that we were ready to move forward. But until we got through that experience, I think everyone was still very uncertain as to whether that would just be the one thing we did, and didn't end up doing this tour or anything else, or if we were going to end up doing everything we've done. So we're all just so grateful, man. It's like you can't really express it in words because it's so big. it's so big, dude. We played for like 6,000 people in Denver, Colorado last night. We normally play a little venue called Summit Music Hall that holds 1,000 people in Denver.
Yeah, that's got to be
So
crazy. And I swear,
it,
you might be taking the questions out of my mouth, because I might as well have sent you the sheet before we talked, because I was going to ask about Riot Fest next, because you guys took that time away, and you're saying now you did that as kind of a trial. I mean, that's an insane environment to jump back into. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to play some quiet shows and, kind of just feel it out. Like, you're right in the middle of it. And it sounds like that truly was a test. It wasn't like a teaser for, we already know we're going to be back. That was more like, let's feel it out and go from there. Cause it had to be, a festival like that is always just massive from start to finish.
yeah, I don't know how many people were watching us that night, but definitely tens of thousands, I mean, whatever a large portion of the attendance to the festival in general,
Right.
they were watching us play. It was a sea of people. And that's intense too, to be the first thing you do in 7 years, is to step up. I still been playing shows here and there. I played guitar with Newfound Glory on a couple of tours, and did a couple of really small club tours on my own, just my own shows, both in Europe and Europe. I did Australia, Europe, and the US. I did my own little headlining shows. So it's like I was so far removed from a 30,000 person festival and
Right.
and performing, putting that hat on to be the lead singer of a band in front of that many people. It was intense. It was like and there was no warm up. It was just like we're standing side stage the night of the show, and all right, you're on. Intro music rolls, and you just have to walk out there and do it.
Oh,
It's
maybe it was
crazy.
better that way. Well, you talked about, and that was a good prelude. Obviously, you talked about just a minute ago, this tour being one of your biggest. So you're used to playing certain venues. You guys got into a rhythm where you kind of knew your routes, and maybe some of the places became familiar, the clubs and things that you played. Just looking at where you've been this year and where you're gonna be, I mean, you're in places you've never played, larger stages, bigger crowds. So what's that been like to react to? I mean, does the show feel different than it did the last time you guys did a major tour, like the Warped Tour or anything like that? Or, how does that play into how you guys are on stage? And then adding in the new music too, that has to be another element with the larger shows. That's just got to be so new for you guys, even now.
Yeah, we looked at the venues from the fall tour in 2004, which was when Ocean Avenue was really at its height, and these venues are bigger than those even. Um,
Which is insane to
so
think about.
I know, that's why I don't really know even how to put into words an answer to your question. It's so surreal. I mean, the show is very different than anything we've ever done before. Certainly what we left off doing in the 2010s, and at the end of the band. Um, you know, Multiple semi trucks and video walls and this massive lighting package, and just it's it's something I've always dreamed of doing. Obviously, I've always wanted the band to be able to perform at this level, but it wasn't reality. It was, you can't will that into existence. You're going to play where people where people come see you play. So that's I never imagined we would be operating at this level, especially not after all this time, and after um, what I would say a bit of a decline in the 2010s on so many levels. It wasn't just that the shows weren't selling as well. We were exhausted. Our relationships were exhausted. Our creativity was exhausted. We just didn't have any gas left in the tank. So it's just how are we here? How are we doing this? It doesn't make sense to me. But again, we're just so grateful. It's I've had so many people mention to me how I don't know how moved they were to see our energy on stage, not to the crowd, but towards each other. And I think that is something that's been, a positive energy in that way, I think is something that has been missing for a long time. So it feels really good to have that back. And yeah, we're only playing one new song. We're playing Childhood Eyes, the title track from our new EP. But it falls into the same category of all the other surreal things. I mean, people are just losing their minds to the song every night. the song, we've gotten a couple of official radio ads with the song, which is the first time we've got an ad in LA at 98.7 and in Madison, Wisconsin. And this is the first radio ads we've had in 16 years. And since Paper Walls, we Light Up the Sky got some ads, but we haven't had a single song officially added to a radio rotation in 16 years. It's all wild, man.
That's insane. But you know what? Like, it doesn't have to be a perfect explanation. I think we've arrived at, you're not going to complain about how it all turned out, but it is crazy that all of these elements come into play. And I'll get back to, because I want to talk about your Pittsburgh show. I want to talk about you for a second, Ryan. You got your hand in a lot of things. I mean, you kind of mentioned a few of them. You were playing some shows. You have your solo work. You do the electronic stuff with Ryan, and all the other projects that people know or don't know about, your streaming things and that. So with Yellowcard coming back in such force into your life, how are you keeping it all straight? Are you still finding time for those things? Is it easy to balance because they're all something you're passionate about? Or, how do you just kind of navigate all the different things you have your hands on in music and just in life in general?
Well, Yellowcard is definitely taking a front seat again. So a lot of that stuff is on the back burner. I've had the chance to do a little bit of streaming out here on the road, touring, which I still really enjoy doing. It's just such a unique way to connect with fans and stay in touch with them and let them let them into like a little bit of your. I'm not a very I don't really expose much of my personal life on the internet. That's not really my vibe. Sure. But I feel like streaming is a way to sort of connect on a personal level with fans that you don't otherwise have a way to do, and I enjoy that. Because it's sort of the only place. If you're going to find me doing anything sort of personal on the internet, it's going to be when I'm streaming and hanging out with my friends, playing video games or playing music or doing whatever I'm doing, but it's going to be really hard to do any of the things you mentioned right now. We have a lot on our plate, finishing the tour, planning whatever comes next, which that's the biggest thing right now, right? Does this keep going or not? And I think different than before, where if it doesn't keep going, I think there would be this palpable sense of disappointment and sadness. I think if we get the call of like, hey, it's just, we're not going to be able to do it at that level again, we're all going to step away again. So thankful for the chance that we got to do this time, even if it was only this one thing. I don't think it's going to be this one thing, but mentally I'm prepared for that. Just Sure. Because I want to make sure that I stay in a positive headspace and I don't let myself be let down, by anything that does or doesn't happen. Again, though, that said, I think there are some unbelievable things on the horizon for us. I'm just trying not to get my head too far into the future. Right. But it does make it hard to leave a lot of space for a whole slate of different projects and things, because I feel that I do need to keep myself pretty open and available for whatever Yellowcard is going to demand of me again. And again, with this opportunity being so massive, so much bigger than anything that's come before it, we all want to maximize this time, this chapter, however long it's going to last. We want to get as much out of it as we can and do as many things, take as many opportunities as we can. So I would love to get back into the studio with Ryan Mendez, our guitar player, and I have like an ambient electronic project called Jetta. We released a full-length album earlier this year. I thought I lose track. But it's called Midwinter. We're really proud of that record. We spent like 4 years making it. But if time allows, depending on how busy we are next year, I know we both would really love to get back in the studio and create some new tracks. And that project's for us, it's not breaking any barriers or skyrocketing monthly listeners. It's just something we love to do. So we would love to make some more Jetta music if we get the time. But yeah, I'm focused on Yellowcard, man, which is it's crazy to hear that out loud, that I'm focused on Yellowcard. I never thought I would say that again.
It's cool to hear straight from you that you're open to the possibility. You guys are all open to the possibility of riding the wave and seeing what a new era brings. But it feels like just this resurgence, which it's very apparent when we're just talking right now that you're almost still taken back by how huge it's been and how great the response has been. That if it was to be the final nail in Yellowcard, which of course we're not, it's not, you guys feel a lot more complete than, if things would have just finished up in 2016 and things kind of faded away, that's that feeling of like, oh, it just kind of lost its luster and went away and we had the good times. But it feels like just having this chapter alone before even thinking about the future kind of ties it all together. As like, we brought it back and we did the thing, which is cool to hear from you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what could be bigger than this. So, it's just this feeling of, I don't know what the right word is. It's so satisfying to feel, to walk out on stage in front of that many people every night after 20 plus years. It's like all the hard work and all the ups and downs of which, to be honest, I think collectively there were more downs than ups if you really break it down throughout the entire lifespan of the band. I think we existed in a darker place as opposed to a lighter place most of our career. We just made a really strong effort to project that light side of the band through our music and our shows and things, which I think a lot of bands exist on that plane. The creative side of the band is where you're able to express the good parts of what you're doing, but behind closed doors, it can be a bit of a dumpster fire,
Sure.
And we dealt with that all along the way. And so it's not just about the shows. I think right now, I think the shows play into the idea that this is probably the first time in our entire career where it's just peaceful. It's just calm and gratifying, and like we are all coexisting in a way that I don't think the band has ever done. So it all plays into each other. I think our energy, because of the shows, plays back into the shows, and people see the shows and how well they're doing, and so they want to come, and so the ticket sales have been climbing throughout the entire tour. So everything's just working better than it ever has.
Well, it sounds like a healthier cycle than what you were dealing with. And I want to tie it all together with the Pittsburgh shows in a minute. But one more thing that caught my eye that I've liked recently from you, Ryan. Bands and artists, they're doing all these different things now. Like, social media has existed for a while, but I feel like just the way artists can interact with fans, there's always new things. Even looking just post-COVID or pre-COVID to now, all the different ways that artists connect with their fans, whether it be fan club stuff or different merch, or whatever. It could be whatever you want to say. You're doing the handwritten lyric sheets, and you shared some of that on social media. I can't recall an artist doing anything specifically like that. Don't get me wrong. We've seen like postcards and things like that. That's a little bit different though. And I think that's a really cool experience and something that's can really connect a fan to you and Yellowcard. So where did that idea come from, and how have people responded? Because I think it's one of the coolest things to be able to grab something like that from an artist that you love.
Yeah, it was just an idea I had after the band broke up to try to stay afloat, to be honest. And I honestly, man, full disclosure, to every fan that has supported it and purchased one, I'm not exaggerating in any way. It is one of the main factors in how I've been able to continue to make a living doing music, because most of the actual music I've been making has not paid any bills whatsoever. Music post Yellowcard,
Right.
Nothing really ever materialized into financial success in any way musically after Yellowcard. So I did a lot of other things to support let's call it my music habit, and the handwritten lyrics were by far one of the most lucrative endeavors that over the last 6-7 years. It's funny how I've developed this system of like how I do it. And it's like it's almost like I have a little Etsy shop, in my house where I set up and fill orders and stuff. But the support for these things has really honestly, it's kept me afloat. It's one of the main ways that I've made a living for the last 6 or 7 years. So I've probably got a little carpal tunnel going on, but it's been well worth it, and I'm super grateful to everyone who has supported it. I don't think, with everything going on now with Yellowcard, the lyrics are very time consuming. The handwritten
Oh
lyrics,
yeah.
it takes I mean, when I open up the shop for orders, I have to set aside, okay, I'm not going to be producing any music or anything for this 2-3 week period while I fill orders. It takes a long time. So with everything going on with Yellowcard, I don't think I'm going to be, I mean, I don't know when, if ever, I would do them again.
Sure.
But I did 4 songs from Ocean Avenue this year, and it's the only time I've ever done a limited run of a song where it's like numbered. And these were, what I try to do to make these special was I also added this little like embossed stamp that has a really cool Ocean Avenue 20 anniversary logo on it. And there are, I don't know, 30 or 40 sheets way away left in my shop. And that's probably going to be it. So it's been a hell of a run though. And I'm again, just so grateful to everyone who supported them. But if you want to grab one, there's a few left.
Oh, there you go. That's limited edition, everybody. And yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because I thought it was super unique, and whether it returns or not, I thought that was really cool. And I know it takes a lot of time. Tying this all together, Ryan, and I appreciate your time today. You guys have been busy, obviously, with this huge tour, and you have this regular crew that you tour with. You mentioned all of the elements that go into it, and the bigger video boards, this and that, and of course the artists that you tour with. But then you have some of these dates that are peppered in, like your visit to Washington, PA, Pittsburgh, PA, with the Four Core Music Festival that's coming up, and that's got to be a little different, right? I mean, it's a different list of performers that you're going to be the headliner, of course, but there's a different list of people that lead up throughout the day. What do you enjoy about that change of pace? How do you interact with those artists that you might not be out on the road with all the time? Like, just what's the vibe of getting into something that's different from the regular tour stops like?
I mean, festivals are great, man. There's a lot of friends coming to that show that, and bands we haven't seen in a long time that we'll get to catch up with. And there's a little less stress pressure on a festival show than there is on your own headlining show. One thing about Forecourt that we're all like, kind of like, dang it about, is that we're not actually going to be able to carry our full production from the headlining tour to the festival, because we really have to kind of drop and go and get in and go, because we added that date later on after the tour was already booked. So anyways, we're trying to get something brought in to still make it the production special, but we can't bring our show that we're doing now. But I think in general, just festivals are an enjoyable thing for artists because of the social aspect of it. Getting to see your friends and bands that, especially a festival like Forecourt, that's very scene focused in that it's bands from that Warped Tour, pop rock, pop punk era of music. So we know everyone that's there. So sometimes you can play a festival that is so eclectic and has so many different kinds of artists and whatever. But when you play these kind of Warped Tour centric festivals, it's great because there's going to be so many of our friends we haven't seen in a long time. So we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, you mentioned, and we'll tie it all up. I think the last time you visited the Pittsburgh area, I did a little research. I might be wrong, but I think I'm right. So the last visit I have for you guys is Yellowcard in Pittsburgh was Warped Tour, July 15th, 2016. So that puts us at a shade over 7 years or 84 months, however you want to
Yeah.
split it up. So that long since you visited Pittsburgh and played a show for Yellowcard fans here in Pittsburgh. So if you're talking directly to them right now, people that love Yellowcard, that are coming out to see you for the first time in forever at Forecourt, what's your message to them? What can they expect on Saturday from you guys?
Well, this show is actually one of the few shows on the tour, 2 or 3 shows on the tour, I think, where we're playing Ocean Avenue from start to finish. We've done some anniversary shows, starting with Riot Fest last year, again in England at Slam Dunk Festival earlier this year. So we haven't been playing the full album on the regular headlining part of the tour. So I think it's a special thing for us all to come together and celebrate the anniversary of this album that was so monumental for us, and is really the reason we still have a career today. So that whenever the thing is, when you play Ocean Avenue all the way through, Ocean Avenue comes third. It's the third song on the record. So you play it and that's it. You're done. You're done with that for the night. So when you get to the end of the show, you don't close with Ocean Avenue, which is what we do, literally every show all over the world for the last 20 years. So when you close the show with Back Home, the last song on Ocean Avenue, it's a really special moment because you're ending the show on this sort of somber, reflective sing along where everyone is super emotionally charged from all the 12 songs prior. And it just ends the show on such a different note and vibe, than a usual Yellowcard show. I feel like it's a real moment for people to connect with each other in the crowd with regards to what not just Yellowcard, but the music from that time of their life, like what it means to them and what it still means to them and how it, brings everyone together into that room. Because you're not running around, crowd surfing and dancing like crazy. You're ending the show with basically just standing still and singing with your friends. It's a really interesting thing. So looking forward to playing the album all the way through. We've certainly never done that before in Pittsburgh. So, this will be a first time for that.
Well, Ryan, hey, I appreciate it. And I'll say to anybody that's watching, listening, that we already know it's going to be a crazy weekend out in Washington, the Wild Thing Stadium for Four Chord. Saturday's a big night with Yellowcard being there. So I think there's still some tickets available, single day tickets for that day, but it's getting tight. So check everything out at 1059thex.com and the Four Chord Music Festival website as well. Ryan, I appreciate you being so honest with us, man. It's great to catch up. It's great to see you guys in such a good space. You particularly, so good to catch up with you. I can't wait to see you on Saturday on stage, and hopefully we'll have more conversations for everything that's to come for Yellowcard in the future. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, we will see you on Saturday, and thanks so much for the time and the support. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.